Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. We are at a new venue. We are at the home of a realist. We're out here enjoying some late cooling afternoon. Still pretty hot, but it's getting cooler and nice. The twilight hour. I'm Steve.
Lucas.
Jay.
Connor.
And we have a special guest, Josh. Thank you for joining us. So Josh of concrete fame, 5-star concrete fame, and firefighter by day. And night, I guess. Actually, you guys do both. Tell us a little about yourself. What's your OU origin story?
Well, started when my grandma took me to my first game, and just kind of fell in love with the whole family's OU fans, and went to the first game. It was 1998. Played against Colorado. We lost that game. That's when I kind of got hooked OU football.
I remember that game.
You got hooked by a loss, huh? I did, but it was fun. I mean,
He was going to avenge that loss.
Yeah, that's the next year. Stoop came in, and
How old were you in 1998?
Oh man, 8 or 9.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a good formal age to start.
Yeah.
Really getting going into it. Well, that's intriguing. Like for every OU fan, it's always interesting to hear how they got their start. We're going to hear more about your story and what you like about OU football, what your fondest memories are, but also we want to get into what you think about the team and everything with the outlook going forward. But before we get to that, let's just kind of catch ourselves up to what's been going on. Well, here we are, July 31st. Fall camp has begun, right?
Less than a month away.
Less than a month away. It's starting to feel real. This is pretty cool. And the excitement's there. Also a little bit, at least for me, the trepidation, kind of like you start having to think about the schedule and what we're going to have to face. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts? How excited are you?
I'm mildly excited. The Friday game should be a different change of pace to start the season. I'm really excited about just winning that game handily and then sitting at your place on Saturday and watching games literally for like 12 hours straight. Or something like that.
And then the next day and the next day.
Well, the next day I'm flying to New York for a Pearl Jam trip.
Well, the rest of us.
I'll watch them.
Are there college games on that Sunday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Sunday,
Monday. There's I think there's two or three.
Is that the
Sunday and then one on
is
Monday?
the LSU USC game on that Sunday? Is it a?
We'll have to look. But yeah, I know there's a couple
either
marquee
Sunday or Monday.
matchups on Sunday and Monday.
Yeah.
That'd be the game Lincoln tried to get out of.
Yeah, that game.
One of many.
One of many.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just wishes he wasn't joining a new conference that's gonna actually give him some competition.
Hey, they're close.
Yeah.
They're close.
Well, he inherited a program that had it'd be a miracle. He'd be a miracle worker if he turned that program around. Is what he said.
Right.
Is what he said last week.
Right.
But I seem to recall when he went there, it was the mecca of
Right.
college football, and they had all the facilities, and he was super looking forward to how great of a program that he was walking into, other
Right.
than on the field.
And being able to recruit somewhere,
Yeah.
for one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
for
how's that
once.
recruiting going?
Yeah.
Not well.
Poorly.
How about OU's recruiting, Jay? How's it going?
Good. We're looking at our third consecutive top 10 class. It's a little hard to keep track of these days because BV and company, they're really ahead of the game. I mean, they're already on to 2026 commits. So it's the timeline in college has changed the last few years. So you've got the majority of your class, is sewn up before summer's even over. So you're just kind of waiting for a handful of guys to.
And we are waiting
finish off the
for
class.
a couple guys that we're looking at, right?
Yeah,
Offensive
mostly
line.
it's just Fasusi,
Mm-hmm.
5-star offensive lineman.
That's in a couple weeks. We
Got a
find out.
linebacker we're looking at as well.
Yeah.
From Nebraska. I think we're in a battle with him to come. But yeah, I think it's winding down from a 2020.
Do you guys want to handicap either of those?
No idea.
I think Fasusi will go to Texas just because of the track record that we have with offensive linemen. I mean, it's the same story, different year in terms of. Jay kind of said it at dinner. We've got 4 guys that are basically locked and loaded, ready to commit, and one after the other. It's just like last minute decision. They choose someone else, and in this case, I think the big concern here is Texas has the resources, and if they need him. They need Fasusi. They need a marquee offensive lineman in their class, and I think they're going to come in with a pretty strong final offer. So I don't know. We'll see.
I would imagine they also have a little bit of regret and remorse for having missed out, and that gives them an incentive, maybe a disproportionate incentive, to throw as much as they can because they need a win. They lost out on several people in the transfer portal. Obviously, I'm blanking.
Yeah, they've taken a
Dominique
Dominic Williams.
Dominic Williams.
Yeah.
So they sort of need a win just to hang their hat on that. I could see them overpaying for someone just to say they got him.
Well, and it's in the same vein. Losing out on a guy is one thing. Losing out to a guy to OU is
Your rival,
different, right?
Yeah. And this is
and vice versa with OU as well.
And
right?
this is to your rival again.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't lose twice.
Yeah. So I hope we can close the deal on him. I think there's another guy we're looking at that's in between like us, Stanford, and Michigan.
Yeah.
I don't recall the name.
Babaloa, maybe?
Babaloa, yeah. Sounds like we're kind of in the mix, but it sounds like it's more Michigan than anything else. So I don't know. We'll see. I would love a big offensive line signing. I think we need it. Biedenbow needs to establish the pedigree, and it's kind of like just we're repeating ourselves over and over and over again. It doesn't make sense because he has the track record. He has the resume of guys in the NFL. How are we not closing deals? So if NIL is the place where we need to improve to make sure he closes those deals, let's figure out how we do that. So fingers crossed. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, though. I think just to the original question, Steve, just ramping up to the season, I'm more than mildly excited, as Lucas put it. I'm extremely excited. I think it's going to be a fun first few games of the season. The Friday start's interesting, but it's going to add a new flavor to everything. And then, to Lucas, to your point, just getting to sit and watch games all of Saturday like we don't usually get to do, one after another.
Yeah.
And drink and hang out and not worry about having to go to work on Monday. Having 2 days to do that is going to be a game changer. So,
Or even, if we have a normal night game, we get to watch, the 11 to 2:30 game, but then, we're watching probably half of the second game, and then we're going to the stadium.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's just full day of football for
Full
us.
day. And
we're in
a
the national
relaxed day.
spotlight for that
Yeah,
Friday.
It is
So,
nice.
I mean,
No,
pretty much
I
everybody
hope-
in the country is going to be watching us except for the people that are high school football games.
My hope is that the Big 12 becomes the new Pac-12 after dark because
Right.
that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun to watch, actually.
I mean, all of I can almost, I would, well, I'll have to go back and look. I'm sure they've established some game times, but I bet most of Colorado game times, I guess they'll have big noon kickoffs, though. That'd be 10 noon Colorado.
Arizona State too, though.
But still, I mean, Colorado's going to be in a lot of late games, I'd assume, because
Right.
of where they're located and stuff
Yeah,
like
time
that.
zone-wise.
So,
BYU.
love to hate watch them late.
Yeah,
after
Utah.
Yeah.
winning a game. I mean,
Arizona.
it'd be awesome.
Yeah. Josh, are you excited?
Yes, very excited.
You going to be at the first game, Josh?
I got to work. Yeah, I'm going to try to get off, but I got to work.
All right. Somebody's got to be there to.
Yeah.
Well, if you do go, you're coming, you're hanging out.
Absolutely. You're coming and hanging out for sure. Well, one thing that I thought was interesting, we talk about the Friday night game, and I was looking there for because of a friend who's saying, hey, do you have any tickets, Steve? And I don't know why everyone thinks I have tickets. I don't have some special access to tickets. And if I do, I'm selling them at market price. I'm not cutting you a deal. No, but I don't have any extra tickets except occasionally I might have one. And so I said, unfortunately, no, I can't even promise I've got one. Sometimes I get one. And so I said, let's go online and let's look. I said, historically speaking, you want to wait, if you can, until the week of the game because ticket prices fall. And at the early part, everyone's anticipating and getting real excited. And this is a time when tickets get really pricey, way more pricey than they're going to be. But I said, it could be a totally different
That's
normal
awesome. Yeah.
with the SEC and everything. Let's go on and look. So I went on and looked. And I was shocked at how cheap the tickets are for the
$30?
games of interest. So not quite, well, it depends on where you're
games
looking.
of interest.
Well, the games of this person's interest. That included the first game. The Temple game, the Friday night game, was very, very affordable, what I would describe it. Like in our section, in the 40s and maybe the 50s.
With a face value of $75
$75 plus.
Yeah.
You could probably get into that game today for 30-something. if you didn't care where you sat.
Yeah, there'll be people giving away tickets on that game.
And that was the truth for, let's see, it was
just wait for the
also
weather report.
the weather report. And well, but also it's a Friday night game. And so it's kind of disruptive, I think, for a lot of people. It's not a big matchup. It's people are getting
People get
off
off
work.
work. Yeah.
I could see a lot of people opting for, you know what, that's not going to be the game I go to. So I looked at several of the others. The others that they wanted, who do we play September 19th?
Tulane.
So it would
September 19th?
No, it
That's-
was
That's
Octo-
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
October 19th.
Oh, October 19th?
South Carolina?
Yeah, that sounds right.
The week after Texas.
Maybe it was
is
September.
South Carolina.
Maybe it was too late because none of the ones they wanted were very pricey at all. So Maine, obviously not pricey. The 3 non-conference, just not pricey at the start of the season. But the
Why do they want to go to these games?
well, that's
They
that's
just
the
want to
ones
be.
they can.
They just
go
want to be
to.
there. Yeah,
That's the ones they can go to.
That's
with the schedule they've got. Now, then I looked at the Alabama game, and I looked at the Tennessee game, and I think the South Carolina game, and all of those were pretty, like I would expect, really pricey.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be tough to do if you don't have tickets, but I would encourage someone to wait and see, because one, weather, and two, well, you may not want to see it if the team doesn't materialize,
Yeah,
but
depending
the
on the record.
opponent might not materialize, and so you may. I think there's a lot of reason you get that game for cheaper.
Well, and I've had a similar conversation with. I had someone reach out to me asking if I can help find Tennessee tickets, and I'm like, that's fine, happy to do that, but I'm not going to help you look for tickets until the week of the game. 'Cause
Right.
That's just how.
I'm going to guess, other than OU Texas, maybe the Alabama game, only because I think it'll be a premier matchup.
It was
I
several
think we're
$100.
gonna-
OU
to sit.
Texas. OU Texas
our
is an
section.
interesting market to that trends.
The
Like
OU Tennessee game is going to be an expensive ticket. I think both teams are going to be undefeated. Hypo coming
Yes,
back.
yeah.
First SEC game. I
It was
think
very
those tickets will be
expensive,
through
if
the
I
roof.
remember right.
it-
Alabama definitely was, and we were talking
Getting in the
several
game's gonna be
$100 to get in the game.
I bet Tennessee by the end of it, I bet you can get in the gate for $85
For which one?
for Tennessee.
Oh, I bet so too. By the game
If not
week.
less.
By game week.
Yeah. If, I mean,
get
if,
in.
If you look,
No.
if you don't care where you're sitting and you just want to get in, I bet you're getting in for $65 to $85.
I saw a list on Twitter yesterday, I think it was, and it was the top 25 games for this season in cost as of right now, and Texas was like 4 of the top 15.
Well, did you see the
One of them was like
estimated
Georgia was
ticket
like
price for
$600
Texas was like $500, like after market value, like
Yeah.
for like per ticket.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, and if the teams materialize, and that's
think it's gonna go-
the mark. It's
it's
going to be
gonna- it's
insane.
gonna be-
It'll be the most expensive OU Texas ticket ever, and
Ever.
that's saying something.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully both teams, well, I hope Texas has lost 5 games by that point, but I mean, hopefully we're undefeated.
I think Texas is
The
gonna
realistic hope is not 5 losses.
I think
so.
we're going to have a tougher time with Michigan than
Well, let's talk about
would
that.
think.
I was talking about that with some guys at work, and
I'm trending. to
Everybody
think
was
that-
saying, I don't know.
I'm trending to think they lose the
Michigan
game
at all.
really,
I'm trending to think Texas might lose that game.
Where
because
is
of
that game at
Michigan.
Michigan?
Yeah.
I
Week
mean,
2. I don't
they've
think
got to
very highly
they've got to
of Michigan.
replenish, but coach, I think Sean Moore can coach.
I mean, I bet
He
Michigan.
proved that when Harbaugh was out for what 5 games last year, or whatever, 4 games.
I think it's the
that many?
style of
It was
play.
4, I think.
It's the style of play that Michigan's going to deploy that's going to give Texas a hard time. They're going to try and pound it down Texas's throat.
Well, and they still have that running back, right?
Texas doesn't have the D tackles they had from last year. They don't have 8 starters on defense from last year. Ewers might be on the bench 75% of the game.
You think it might be like a Major Applewhite, Chris Sims situation?
No. I'm
no.
talking about Michigan's
Same
going to hold on the
thing.
ball.
Running the ball.
They're just going to hold on the ball. They're going to ground
Yeah.
and pound and just hold it.
I think Michigan's a 3.5 point favorite going into that game.
so I could completely see everything that you guys are saying, but I'll take the devil's advocate position as well, just to say I'm not sold on Michigan. I wasn't sold on them last year, and they lost their coach. They've lost some key players,
And they cheated.
and they cheated. And when they stopped being able to cheat the way they cheated, that
The game's got a lot closer.
and I think it's going to that may be a material difference here going forward. So they've also got, I mean, it's not like they're facing OU. They're facing a team that was in the college football playoff. And so there's not as big a chance that they overlook Texas the way they might overlook an OU or a similar type of team that has a lot of talent but didn't accomplish as much in the prior year. So I don't know. To me, it's a real crapshoot. I could see it kind of going either way.
You know, I hadn't thought of this till just now, but normally this time of year when we're talking about this kind of game for Texas, I actually want Texas normally to win this game,
Right.
right? And now
You might
that there's other blue bloods in the type of conference that we're in now,
Right.
Yeah,
Texas could lose every game.
our schedule's difficult enough that
Yeah.
it doesn't bother us if
Yeah,
Texas
we don't
loses
need
3
Texas.
games.
We don't need
That's a
Texas
good
to be
point.
good.
Well, Texas is in a weird spot too.
No, that's a great point. We really don't.
We don't need Texas to be good. We
Texas-
used to. We needed it.
Yeah.
Before.
They're in a weird spot too with our game, and again, it's Red River rivalry. It's going to have everything that comes with it. But you get Georgia the week after, and if you're Texas, so
Yeah, that's
you got,
tough.
You get 2 weeks to think. You get 3 weeks total to really think about these 2 games that are coming up.
Yeah.
I'm not saying OU's ever a look ahead game, but Georgia is in the back of your mind. You got Georgia at home the week after you play OU. It's not easy to not think about that. So I don't know. It's going to be
Well, especially if they take the typical Texas conceded route and think that this pencil in that they're the better team, they should win. If they listen to the media, they should win. So their challenge is Georgia the next
yeah.
week.
I wonder what
That's pretty crazy.
What's the line?
If Texas beats Michigan,
It's like 8.5.
Is it still?
I mean,
that?
there's a chance that even when we beat Tennessee, if Texas beats Michigan, it still could be Texas favored by 8 or something.
Oh, absolutely.
Against us.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, it could be.
it could be. That'd be a lot of points.
So that opened up at 9.5, and it's down to 8.5.
Which game?
OU Texas.
OU Texas.
If
Texas,
OU's
yeah.
undefeated and they beat Tennessee, I'd be surprised if that's anything more than a 4-point Texas.
I might throw some money on the money line. It's a
So we have
plus
Auburn
260
before
money line.
Texas, right?
Yes.
Oh, Auburn too.
Yeah.
We're at Auburn before
We're
Texas.
Tennessee at home, then at Auburn, then we have a bye.
Bye week
If
before
we're
Have we ever had a
undefeated
bye
going
before
into that,
Texas?
Not that I can remember.
I don't think we've ever had a bye before Texas. Yeah, I mean, ever.
We
I'd
get a
say.
bye after Texas.
recently.
Plenty of
I
times.
can't remember one.
We're currently favored against Auburn.
Anytime recent.
Oh, we should be.
2.5
should be.
2.5 points.
How do you feel about it, Josh? The both the Texas Michigan matchup, and then talk about OU Texas.
Well, haven't really followed much of the Michigan side, but kind of what you guys are hitting on. Like, they've lost a lot of players. Michigan's lost a lot of players, lost their coach. Can Quinn Ewers stay healthy? Michigan could come in that approach, run the ball, keep the ball away from them. But we got to see what their defense is. I know they loaded up the transfer portal, recruiting.
Yeah,
But-
they did.
I mean, it's the Red River rivalry. I mean, we don't know.
It's
I
a
mean,
toss up.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Ewers struggle against Michigan, and then
Oh my God!
and
would that
then
not be beautiful?
and then be calling for Arch.
Like an Applewhite Chris Sims
Yeah,
situation.
I would absolutely love it. Like just
Because
I
that was
want
the wrong
I want
move.
all the drama.
That was
Right.
the wrong move.
Absolutely the wrong.
Yeah.
100%.
Still a firm believer that we got the better quarterback out of the recruit class.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about it on as far as that goes. So if I were to script it, I would have it, and obviously this is fantasy land, but I would have it where there is struggle with Ewers. Arch Manning comes in and actually has success. They are undefeated. We're undefeated.
Mississippi State,
Going into the Red River rivalry, we win. Narrowly, but we win. Arch Manning takes over the job, though, because they say he's the man. Maybe they split time in the game, and he kind of rises above. And they say, man, if we would have just played him the whole time, we would have beaten OU. They win the rest of their games. We win the rest of our games, and we beat them in the SEC title game. And then we play them in the playoffs in the third round. The semifinals, we beat them again. 3-0 in the same
They can't
season.
be running Arch Manning out there. Quinn Ewers is on the cover of the NCAA football game. I mean,
Do you think that,
he's like a top 5 Heisman candidate right now?
to be frank, does that not actually probably factor into their decision making? That's going to be tough to bump that guy.
Yeah.
And especially if he's that far up, it's going to be because you set reset and you're like, well, we've invested a lot in this guy and we want him to look good. I could see that being a bias.
I mean, I wonder what kind of struggles Ewers has to have.
It would have to be pretty bad.
And I think Ewers is a good quarterback.
Good.
I don't by any stretch think he's a top 5 quarterback in the country, but he is a good quarterback.
No, I mean you put guys around him. He's
Yeah.
gonna play.
But he also had all day to throw the ball.
He's okay.
Most of last year.
I think Ewers is just a.
But they lost a lot of wide receiver. What, they lose 2 wide receivers to the NFL?
Worthy and
and their tight end and their running back.
the transfer from Georgia, whatever.
So where would you put Ewers? Would you put him top 20, Jay?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, but in the teens, I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback.
I bet he's pushing top 10. I really do.
He doesn't have the numbers for it.
I think talent-wise and like what he's able to do, I think he's pushing top 10.
I don't think he's got it. I don't know. There's something about the fundamentals, the intangibles of reading defenses and playing in the moment. I don't know. I feel like that Alabama game was more of a game like OU had against Alabama with, I can't believe I'm blanking on it, in the Sugar Bowl.
Trevor Knight.
Trevor Knight. Yeah. It's a Trevor Knight. Like, it was.
Yeah, but even that
catching
game,
fire.
he hit a couple deep balls. But mostly for that game, the Texas defense, Milroe
Didn't know what he
still
was
learning
doing.
on the job.
Yeah.
And
Well, and fair enough, because I think also, though, you have a good coach in Sark who puts him in positions to make easy, effective plays.
Right.
Like, I think Sark knows how to get guys open to make easy, open throws, which is concerning. I mean,
He's a good offensive coordinator.
he's great. I think he's
very, very
he's
good offensive
up there
coordinator.
with. I mean, I think he's up there with Lincoln and
I
those
agree.
guys. I think he's extremely good.
Right after.
Just a quick note, though. Texas also has a bye the same week we do. Before that, Red River rivalry.
Right, yeah, it's double
Look,
bye.
double
what,
bias, yeah.
What were Ewers' numbers last year? And in mind this is with a first-round wide receiver. I think the other one dropped to a third, but everyone was shocked he was still there in the third round.
First round,
second
second round tight end?
second round tight end, and the running back went second or third, but he was injured, and a lot of said he would have been a first-round running back.
And their offensive lineman, I think.
So,
went first round, too.
You're right. Like, his numbers weren't staggering. Like 3,479 yards. He only threw 22 touchdowns, but he only had 6 picks.
What was
but 22 and
what
6
was his
is-
QBR?
is
QBR
That's
was,
like game manager.
In this day and age,
QBR
that's
was
nothing.
78, and he ranked 17th in the league.
Against a Big 12 that was down.
That's with four. That's with
Yeah.
four NFL
Playmakers.
playmakers on his team.
That's fair.
But he,
And I don't
he's
know
on
that
the
they-
cover
We
of
would
the
find
game.
that disgusting at OU if we had the receiving core we have. If Jackson Arnold goes out and has 22 touchdowns and 6 picks, we will be
that's-
extremely disappointed.
Unless we're running the ball for 5,000 yards.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, that's
I think he's pedestrian, but
I do too, but it's
for,
motivated reasoning. I want him to be pedestrian, but I really do feel like for the body of evidence I've seen, it doesn't. It leaves a lot to be desired.
So for comparison, Dylan Gabriel's 2023 stats: 3,660 yards,
Same yardage then.
30 touchdowns,
That's more.
6 interceptions,
That's the same.
87 QBR.
Yeah.
Significantly higher.
fourth and
QBR.
one.
With a terrible offensive coordinator.
Terrible OC.
As opposed to a good offensive
Not
coordinator.
not nearly as good of wide receiving core.
Yeah, a significant gap. A huge gap on offense.
30 touchdowns to 22, that's a pretty big difference. 8 touchdowns
Absolutely.
over 12 games is a pretty big difference.
well, the difference,
But it's
between
also
what you say,
the
fourth in QBR.
And 17.
Does that
Fourth
include,
versus 17?
Does that include Big 12 title game and 2 playoff games? Or no, they only got 1 playoff game.
Good question. I don't know.
Yeah, if that includes 2 extra games, because Dylan Gabriel didn't play a ball game, so
Yeah.
he only played 12 games, and he
And he
missed
didn't
half
play-
of BYU.
And he didn't
he
play
didn't even throw- he
and he
didn't even
didn't
throw
play
2
a
touchdowns a
conference championship game.
Yeah,
he didn't
Yeah,
throw 2
it-
touchdowns a game.
It looks like it includes
Which
the
I'm sure it does. I'm sure
2
it's a full
extra
season.
games.
so that's even worse for you.
Because he lit up Oklahoma State.
If you take away a Big 12 title game and a playoff game, Gabriel had significantly better stats playing 2 less games.
Yeah, he murdered Oklahoma State.
Well,
35 for 46 for 452. 4 touchdowns and a pick.
It does seem like
Yeah, 15% of
That's
his
a-
touchdowns came in like one game.
it's a recency bias there for that one game. That's a championship game against a team that shouldn't have even been there.
So he
We won't
went in-
revisit that.
So the most touchdowns he threw in any other game, he threw 3 against Rice and 3 against Bama. Everything else was 1 or 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, so Bama was his heyday of a game.
Yeah, and OSU.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the
defense-
thing though. Against
they
Bama, he
beat
was
us.
only 63%. It's almost more of an argument that Bama just had a down game than it was Texas having a good game.
Well, Milrow had never experienced a crowd like that either because they were at Texas, weren't they?
No, it was
that was at Mammoth?
Tuscaloosa. But I mean, regardless, it's still not a crowd. It's
the
still
year
not a
before they
crowd
were-
like that.
they were
Like
at
it's not a
Texas
game
Longhorns,
like that.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
it's
ahead.
Texas. I hate them. They're stupid.
me too.
Josh, how do you feel about Texas?
I hate 'em. I mean,
They can burn, right?
Yeah,
right.
I like
Fireman?
burnt orange.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be. I can't wait for that game. 2:30 kick.
It's going to be so
It's
electric.
gonna be electric.
It's going to be
We
awesome.
get to sleep in.
I'll actually be there.
That's
You're gonna be
awesome.
there. You need to book your hotel.
That's right. Book one without bed
Great,
bugs.
great time.
No one's
Jay,
excited
book
about
your
being
hotel.
there.
It's on the bucket list.
You've never been?
Never been.
Oh, my friend.
Man,
Sounds like you're coming. This
You've
year.
got to.
Sounds like you're gonna.
Sounds like this is your first, your inaugural OU Texas. Well, those of you who are listening thinking we're fishing for content here on the Quinn Evers Show, we're not. But I tell you, if you are fishing, Fluke Luke Fishing, that is the place to look. It's a YouTube channel. Fluke Luke Fishing brings you feel-good content, honest reviews of equipment and tackle. Please go to the YouTube channel, like, watch, subscribe.
he's
we all
growing up
do
right
it.
before our eyes.
He really is, yeah.
Yeah, just watch him
Yeah.
week after week.
Week after week, he's getting bigger, and the fish are getting bigger. They're really biting. So let's talk a little bit more about OU and a little bit less about the hated team from down south. What should we be looking for, if anything, to tease out of this fall camp? I mean, we've got some injury news that's come out. We've got the fact that McCullough was in a boot and on a little cart. We've got, and probably won't be ready for game one, they say.
I don't.
I haven't heard any
remember what
reports
he
on
called.
him.
What? Yeah.
Anthony, not ready for game one.
Won't be ready
Farouk,
for game
not
one.
ready for game one.
Farouk sounds nominal though. Like everyone confident he'll be back for Tennessee.
That actually doesn't bother me though because
no, I mean that
Farouk being out gives
Gibson
other
and-
guys
Yeah.
time to
gives
shine.
him a shot.
I
Because
totally agree.
I think we've seen everything Farouk can do.
Yeah, his ceiling
He's
has
been here 3 years.
Yeah. He's hit
We've
the ceiling.
seen what he is. He's solid. He's not amazing. So maybe that gives a chance to some of these new kids.
Yeah.
Obviously, Burks we're excited about, but
Gibson,
Yeah, I
a
think
chance.
Gibson-
I
out
think
there.
Farouk just kind of filled the void though too. Like I think Farouk in the slot could be great for a team. He's not Deion Burks.
yeah,
Deion Burks is gonna be in the slot, but like I think Farouk is more of a slot guy.
I think body type wise he is. But when you had Drake, who was your third down go to, he always knew where to be. He could sit down in the zone. I don't know that Farouk had the awareness that Stoops did.
No, I agree.
So that's why you played Stoops in the slot.
Definitely.
And put Farouk out wide.
I'm
yeah.
guilty of this too, but he's had some timely turnovers.
Yep.
And some on a kick return.
It's got the Jalen Hurts
the
effect.
two in the bowl game were
game.
just backbreaking.
Kansas
was killer
Gave
too.
him the ball inside the
Now,
20.
and he was put in a bad situation there. We don't blame him as much, but he does show the fact that he.
But
is
the fumble on the
undersized.
kickoff was all him.
That was all him.
And I think he had another one in that game.
He had one. He had one in the Tulsa game, didn't he?
He did. He had a great
one was
return.
in
Had a
a
great return and fumbled.
That was like a 50-yard return.
Yeah. He had one in the Arizona game. Tip ball. Right?
Yeah.
Ball
yeah.
in the Arizona game,
ball
he had
off his
two-
hands.
No, in the Arizona game,
He had
two
two.
fumbles inside the red zone.
Yeah. I mean, they turned the game.
Yeah,
We win the game.
completely
He
changed
doesn't
the
do that.
So I mean, I don't know, like that, and that's a veteran guy. That's one guy you want to lean on in that
Yeah.
group, and you can't
Right.
you can't do that.
So
not
this
a
could be
running back
good.
getting
This could be
that
good for him as well. This could be good for him to know that when he's coming back, he's got to earn it, and he's really got to fight hard.
That group is so deep. It's going to be
It's
awesome
beautifully
to see.
deep.
Coming out of camp, to your original question, health, and the only intriguing, there's only two positions that are even, okay, maybe three that are intriguing to me. Backup running back, possibly, right, to someone else to start themselves.
That's Barnes.
Who's on the line together? What five on the line are taking the majority of the snaps? That's intriguing.
That's the biggest intrigue.
And maybe corners. Other than that, I feel like the whole rest of the team is pretty set.
Yeah. Will we learn much about the offensive line coming out of camp?
I hope it's against the norm where we learn something like in week 2, where it's like they're coming back and they're like, actually, we just see these 5 guys out there, and this kind of looks like who they're going with.
I don't think we learn anything from camp as much as it's just.
Do we
Who's
learn
playing
anything the
where?
first 2 games against Temple and Tulane, though, either? I think Tulane is a solid early season test because they've proven they do have a new head coach, but they've proven over the last
That's our third.
3 or 4 seasons that they're a competitive team. They gave us everything we wanted a couple years ago. They beat USC in a bowl game.
Houston's not going to be a pushover.
That quarterback's gone too.
I think people
Yeah.
assume that Houston, is just going to roll over, but they've got I feel like a very good coach now,
And that quarterback's good too.
and they gave Texas everything they wanted. That's the other game Texas should have lost. We're talking about at dinner.
That's right.
Houston.
That's right.
Houston was like at the 10-yard line, and they had 4 plays to get in the end zone. They couldn't get it.
And they fired their coach,
Who do they have now?
Fritz.
Fritz from Tulane.
Tulane.
that's
Yeah, yeah.
I think he's going to build Houston into something
What a
really
weird.
good. I really do. I think he's a really good coach.
Yeah, what a weird turn.
Offensive line's the biggest one, right? I mean, that's what we're all wondering about. That's what everyone's wondering about. I hope there's some establishment early, like I said. I said at dinner, I think it'll be interesting to see who gets the second safety job beside Billy. I think between
I think it's RSJ. I
Hayden
think
Bowen
it's locked.
and RSJ, like it's going to be a fun battle.
I think the second linebacker is outside the offensive
yeah.
line. The second linebacker is what intrigues me the most because is it Kanik? Is it?
I think Kanik
But you have-
is like third on the chart in either position.
That's what I feel like.
So you have Danny as the Mike
Mackenzie.
and Kip as the Will,
Kip Lewis and I think it's Lewis.
even
and
though they're
Stutzman.
both Mikes. Like that's
But if
that's
you
my
know
only
that,
thing.
if you
is
know
like,
that going in, at least
can
this
adjust.
year he's had time.
yeah, yes,
They both had time.
because that was the big thing last year is they both played Mike.
Yeah.
It was like
So
all right,
Danny
we
was
put two.
slightly out of position.
Yeah. I think it's Kip too, and I think it should be Kip. Kip was a force last year, and I think
Lewis,
he can do both.
And he's a hard hitter. I like
he can
to see
do
that, too.
coverage and he can do rush.
I like seeing
think
guys that can
Lewis,
separate
Carter,
the ball.
and Kobe are the other two coming in. I think Kanik's a third.
Are we taking the defense
Third
for
string.
granted? And I know you're talking about right now, but that they have to really figure out these positions in the rotation, or they could have tons of talent they don't know what to do with.
Yeah. Question marks and like just it's
They should be
too much
extremely good.
too much shuffling where it's like no one's getting established
Right.
when they need to be. Yeah,
And
that's
just
a good
make a
point.
call and get a guy out there.
Yeah, I think
I
that
feel
should
like
be
these
early
guys
calls.
are too good at that. Too good at.
I do too, and the track record's tremendous. So but that's where the expectation is. It's a third year for BV. It's the track record that he's had just in general. It's the recruiting class and the transfers and everybody, the talent's there. It really needs to produce. This is the area where there's almost no excuses and no tolerance for anything but really, really good competitive football.
The only area I would think that's a concern is getting cute with third down blitzes or specialty packages
Yeah.
where, we've got to get this guy on the field for third downs. We've got to get this guy.
Yeah, we have to have him there.
Yeah.
Josh, what's your expectations for the new Seth Luttrell offensive coordination?
I think the biggest thing is game management. Are we going to go fast where the defense doesn't get a break? Are we going to be run heavy? Are we going to incorporate the spread offense and the got that confused. What did Baylor or what did Levy run?
Air raid.
Air raid.
Well, Levy
Levy ran a
wasn't-
spread.
I don't know.
He was- I think
Leach ran more of
is
it.
Luttrell going to be an air raid guy because of his Texas Tech Mike Leach ties?
I want to see him slow it down. Like I want to see him.
Huddle.
Yeah, if you need to go fast, go fast.
We won't. I really don't think we will. Especially with
Go fast or huddle?
but there's
especially
still-
with the comms now. Like I
Yeah,
just
they're-
really don't feel like it's.
Connor, you
headsets.
think they'll go fast?
I think they're not going to go Levy fast,
But yeah, so
but I think they're going to go.
So
I
Josh,
think they're going to have a pace.
when you say huddle, you don't necessarily mean, or maybe you do, the traditional NFL guys in a
Like
circle.
Bama, yeah.
More like
Yeah.
huddle up, then we go. Yeah.
like quick huddle type of thing.
Quick
like-
huddle,
Yeah,
figure out where it is.
catch your breath.
You know what, though?
Settle.
I could argue that the comms.
Make us go faster.
No, I think the comms actually make it more conducive for a huddle. You don't have
Right.
everyone having to look to the sideline.
Right,
You've
right,
got someone that can just tell you right here.
right. Which is so much better because then there's no chance of stealing a sign
Yeah.
and everything. And then you have maybe one sign that they don't know what to do with.
Because before
And it's hot route or
comms
it's
and the
this.
helmets, everyone has to look to the sideline.
Right.
And you're
now
not running
I
a
think-
play in with a wide receiver change.
Yeah,
or
I
running
think
back
right now
change.
you can just do a what do they call those? What are those little short huddles? I call them up.
I mean, Luttrell's
Oh, it's a fancy little name, but
little bunch huddles. I don't know.
There's like a quick little huddle.
Cute little huddle.
They're not
cute
deep
little
either.
huddle.
They're like at the 5. They're like only 5 yards for the ball, and they do a little huddle
Yeah.
and they go.
Yeah, we watch football.
What were you
Not
gonna
the
say- what were you gonna
traditional
say
10-yard
about
huddle, but
Latrell Jones?
I think they might huddle more, honestly,
I
with the
just think
comms.
Latrell's inherited really good running backs, great running back coach, really good receivers. Everyone stayed. Barnes could have left. He stayed. Now let's just see what the offensive line can do. Like what can him, Beadenbow put together, and the tight end position. That's going to be interesting too. Is it Bauer Sharp? And see what he can do. And the kid that came from Baylor, Stogner, he serviced that position. It just looked like he was.
He's just a body, dude.
Yeah, he was out of his-
if he
out
took
of
a
his
hit,
league.
it was like he was out.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and if Caden Helms is healthy, like, I think he gives you a receiving option. Like, he looks like a wide receiver who plays tight end. He just
of a
can't.
Mark
He just can't get. He can't get healthy.
I mean, I'd like to see 3 receptions for 25 to 35 yards a game from a tight end.
I think we're going to
Yeah.
use the tight end.
That by
I
itself
really
have
is
that.
an
I
improvement
think we're
over
gonna
what
have
we've had.
Oh, absolutely.
I think Bauer Sharp is going to be. I think he's going to be a dude, and I think it's being dismissed that position is pretty
you know,
depleted. But I think he and Caden Helms and the kid from Baylor that you mentioned, Josh.
yeah, Jake.
Yeah, Roberts. Yeah, I think that's more depth than we've had in 4 years.
Well, we have
at
to
that
remember
position.
too, the 2 coordinators that we're talking about. We're talking about a fullback and a
Tight end, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Latrell uses tight ends.
And whether or not you want to say there's a bias towards what you played or back in your time, there probably is. And or they can see
The
maybe they
potential.
can see the effectiveness
Right.
beyond what a non-player of that position could see it, like how effective it is. Or how many times do you think they ran routes and were open?
Oh,
when they were playing?
absolutely.
Like, coach, like feed me the ball.
Well, there's not a lot of film out there in the recent 2 to 3 years of our tight ends being successful. So,
I just watched the 2007 Big 12 title game against Missouri last night, and Joe John Finley was the tight end there, and there was like 2 series where I think he had 3 catches over 2 series, and scored a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it wasn't like he was a superstar. I mean,
Right.
Joe John was just a serviceable tight end.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of plays out there where you're getting, say, zone coverage, and you get a tight end against a Mike linebacker
Sitting in
that
the middle.
is out of his element.
Yep.
And he can just sit down in the zone and gain 7 yards.
Yep.
And turn around and maybe gain 3 or 4 more.
But make the catch.
But
Yeah, I'm
if
pretty
you do
sure-
that 3 or 4 times a game, that completely opens up your deep balls. It opens up your slants. It opens up so much more.
Makes them respect
just
it,
by
yeah.
having a tight end they have to respect, unlike
And a quarterback
Stogner.
willing to throw to him, and an offensive coordinator willing to show this or make the call. We're making that throw.
Well, that'll be the growth.
Look.
Part of the growth for Arnold too. I mean, if he can
Check down,
if
yeah.
he gets comfortable with the check down, and we have running back in the flats, and we have tight ends, excuse me, over the middle, that'll open up everything else.
No, I think you're right. I like that point about fullbacks and tight ends. I think they're very similar positions in a lot of ways, underutilized, but at the same time, you don't want to be reliant on it. Some teams become reliant. Some offenses that are just actually not that good, but they happen to have an all-star. But as a component in a complete team, they are a lethal threat because that's one more guy you have to account for, and they will make, like Lucas says, if it's just 3 or 4 plays a game, those are critical plays, getting critical yardage, opens up the defense completely. I think it's something that maybe it's the type of thing that separates a good from great offensive coordinator, the ability to figure out how and when to use those positions effectively.
I think it's a little unfortunate we don't have a fullback on this squad that we know of. Is there a tight end that can move back into the H-back position?
Jerry Koenig.
I mean, he played offense in high school. I mean, you could put Kanik out there.
I don't know. I haven't honestly heard of.
You would think Latrell coming from Air Raid. I mean, Mike Leach used a fullback. Lincoln.
Well, at Arizona,
Lincoln's fullbacks were incredible for
Yeah,
they used
8
they
years.
used fullbacks at Arizona when Latrell was OC out there.
Good
That'd be nice. To,
And
was he there when
Indiana.
Gronk was there?
I'm not sure.
Roberts is
think he
not.
was.
Roberts is not far from a size of a fullback. He's not a big tight end.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a tall fullback, but he's someone you could run in that position and probably have some effective plays with.
Yeah, and it sounds like Bauer Sharp is actually quite
Like the
athlete.
dude. Yeah. Like, it sounds like he's
That'll be exciting to see. It's too bad that we didn't really get a spring game where we could actually see stuff like that. 'Cause
Right.
it didn't seem like it was anything out of the ordinary offensively that we got.
No, and I think sadly that's going to be the story on offense and defense for the first few games. Is you're just not going to get the full flavor of what they're capable of doing. Now, I hope it's because they can truly afford to save everything. You worry that they are only going to be able to implement what they can implement, and hope that the other stuff is there. And then we get to the Tennessee game, and we see just how good we actually are. And that could be we're still a pretty limited offense and even maybe a limited defense in terms of blitz packages and other types of things to do. Jay, you bring up the rule change with the ability to communicate over the microphone or over the headset to the key players. And I'm kind of wrestling with the idea of if that helps or hurts Lincoln Riley. So, as we know, as a prior guest told us when we had Gundy on the program, how Lincoln was so effective at signaling at the last second for what play to run, which will not be an option with the communication. Now, you'll still be able to make a hand signal, but the mics are shut off at that point. Does this take away an advantage as an offensive coordinator that he has, that now it equalizes it and you can call those plays in secret? The teams like Ohio State that are great at stealing calls
You mean
won't
Michigan?
be able to. No, Ohio State is really good at stealing
No.
calls. Michigan was good, but they cheated to do it. Ohio State is legendary in their ability to steal play calling, and it's legal. They just are learning the calls. But if those don't exist, then you've got a situation where, I don't know, it's kind of an equalizer for a lot of different offensive coordinators to be able to say, here's what we want to run, and if they give an audible, it's going to be A or B. And now everybody's Lincoln Riley being able to do that, and you don't get that. Everyone looks over to the sideline, and now the defense gets to read your calls. I don't know. I feel like it might rob a little from Lincoln's competitive advantage.
How long do the comms stay open?
It's like a 20-second rule
I think
or
it's
something.
Probably till the 15 second
It's 15
mark,
seconds in the NFL, but it's also when they break the huddle, I think the comms have to
Cut
shut
off.
off.
Right.
So that, when we were talking about
Huddle.
will it speed up the
Can't
game?
use it as checks.
Right. So I think it will actually be beneficial for the mini huddles like we were talking about.
Yeah.
Because then you call it in, he gives the rest of the guys the stuff, you spread out, and then you can still do the check with me offense where you look to the sideline and you can still make the hand signal, audible. Mm-hmm. And
But that could even be something you told him just there in the huddle.
well, yeah, you call in 2 plays.
Well, but I mean, there's no stealing a signal because it's a different signal every time.
Yeah.
It's not like we had to learn it. I just left hand, right hand.
and it's beneficial to let's call him a rookie quarterback, because essentially he is. He only played essentially a game and a half last year. It's beneficial because he's probably not the greatest at reading defenses at his age. So being able to tell him through comms, we're calling this play, here's your audible, look for the safety cheating down, or look for one of the linebackers following the slot receiver in motion or whatever. And
then look over at
and then
me.
look over at me, and we're going to give you the check offense.
Yeah.
And that's when we've been at our best, is when we did the check with me offense.
So we just had a rule clarification here from our handy assistant. So it cuts off at the 15-second mark or when the ball is snapped.
Oh,
So it doesn't sound like
so
it's
you can
it's
get up
not
the line of
dependent on-
scrimmage
It's
with-
not dependent on huddle. If you run a hurry up, you can get up at this line of scrimmage.
Really?
Look at your
At
defense.
the 25-second mark, and they can just call an audible in the headset.
Yeah.
Wow. But it's only to the
Power.
quarterback.
Only the quarterback.
But
So
he,
he has
but
to make his checks.
But he can still, and he
Yeah,
can,
but
he
that's,
has to signal.
But
to
now
you.
you've got the eye in the sky. You've got your coach up in the box that can literally tell you the defense that they're in.
That tells
Wow.
that makes me think the offenses nationwide are going to be
faster.
faster and better, because if the coach
Right.
is calling the audible instead of the quarterback,
Wow.
it'll be even easier for them to make that happen at the line of scrimmage.
Well, and that gives the advantage to.
And it's not changing. I don't think it's changing the play. I think it's more or less seeing where they're lined up and him at the last second saying,
Right.
okay, your number one target on this play was Gibson.
It's hot
Yeah.
routing.
Now it's
hot routing.
now
Yeah,
it's
new
free.
hot route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and for sure, and to me that gives the competitive pressure and advantage to really good defensive coordinators, because now everybody on offense has that weapon. And that's sort of, again, a neutralizer, I think. And now it's going to be separating the wheat from the chaff. If you've got somebody that's a defensive coordinator who can identify in disguise what they want to do, and I assume maybe Nolan can look this up, I assume the defense can still have radio communication right up until the snap of the ball. He says they can.
Or 15 seconds.
Or 15 seconds. So in that case, he's going to be able to talk to Danny and say, Danny, blitz, Danny, drop. Danny, go left, Danny, go right. And that may be all you need.
Or just hand signal to one of the corners that he needs to,
right.
Instead of playing 7 yards off, he needs to bump and run the guy at the line, because they've seen this formation on video, and they know they're going to try to, run a slant. So you get inside the guy and you pick it off.
Or tell the cheetah. Can you imagine what either Rocky Calmus telling Roy Williams or Roy Williams directly getting from Brent Venables what to do, how powerful that could have been?
Well, and what'll be interesting and nuance of it is when it gets kind of artful in terms of you get to that 15-second mark, and that's when the quarterback starts making checks within that 15 seconds, so that the defense doesn't have time to say they're making this check, they're making that check, etc.
That's going to take seasoned quarterbacks, though.
No, it will. I mean, like I said, it's going to be an art. It's going to be very nuanced, I think, and you're going to require skill to be able to do it. For lack of a better term, it's going to be professional. We're moving that much closer to that professional level that we've all been talking about, that semi-pro level. That kind of we're all headed towards. So, anyways, good stuff.
Very interesting. Well, let's turn.
It sounds like real quick. It sounds like it won't be Brent on the comms.
That's right. It's going to be Zach.
It'll be Zach.
I'll be here for that.
Defense.
That's going to be interesting.
You think Zach will be up top, or you think he'll be on the field?
I think he'll be on the field.
Do you think he'll be on the field?
I mean, when we had defensive coordinators up in the box outside of when Mike Stoops moved up?
I hope he's on the field.
Ted Roof, quote unquote, defensive coordinator was in the box.
But do you need to be? Do you need to be up in the box now?
Yeah, if you've got the comms, you might need that aerial advantage.
Or you might be
Or you have someone in the box talking to you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You have your linebacker coach or your safeties coach or whoever in the box. Or now with the new NCAA rules on the analyst position can do pretty much anything an assistant coach can do. You have an analyst up in the box that is working in conjunction with Allie, who's down on the field, and Brent's down on the field, and their comms are going to be open. So you'll have a guy in the box that's got his comms going to Allie, but then Allie's talking to to Stutzman. So you can relay a lot of stuff that way. Just because Danny doesn't hear the guy in the box, Allie does. And so you can still essentially disguise whatever you want and make changes up until the ball snaps.
It'll be interesting, too, because there's a chance that you give Stutzman a ton of information and you give Jackson very little information.
Right. I think you're right. Based on their football IQ,
just an overload,
what they know. Yeah.
You're telling them too much.
Well, it's also confidence in your game plan as well. Like if you have a solid game plan,
don't
from an offensive
guess
perspective, you don't need to say a lot at all. And maybe one or two things here and there to say, all right, actually they're giving us a different look than what we practiced for. So let's go plan B, and this is what we're going to run, type of thing. So that's going to be fun.
It's going to be really fun. Well, let's turn to our honored guest. So we're out here on a brand new, beautiful patio, sitting out here enjoying some, what is this called? Is this football? This is soccer. This is the Olympics. We're watching, what, is this the Olympics?
No, this is just a friendly.
Oh, this is a friendly. Okay, they did look better.
It's an exhibition.
An exhibition, they call it. Well, regardless, we're out here on this beautiful, brand new laid concrete patio, and that was all because of our guest here, Josh of 5 Star Concrete. Tell us, Josh, now you're a firefighter, so you're kind of a hero most of the time.
First responder.
A first responder.
Thank you for your service.
When you're not doing that, when you're not posing in those calendar shots, you're out running your business, you and David, your partners, and you've got this great concrete company. And when Lucas went to look, and he got like all these bids, because he kept telling us secretly he wanted to get actually the best deal in town, he came back to you because that was the best deal in town. Now, seriously, this is a wonderful, the details, the features, it's very, very nice. As an admirer of concrete, I can tell you it looks really good.
So I like the brush.
It's holding up. We're not sinking into the ground or anything. Thank you. Tell us about your business, and then we'll get into some OU football.
Sure. So actually, David helped me start the business about 2 years ago. I'd been doing concrete work for about 8 years prior to that, just helping another guy. And David kind of helped me. We got the business going. And both of us are firefighters. We're at Oklahoma City Fire. And we just kind of took off. Most of the stuff we do is flat work, meaning patios, driveways, sidewalks, shop floors, that kind of stuff. And we service the Oklahoma City metro area. We go as far south as Wayne, and as far east as Shawnee, and we've been as north to Edmond. And
Is it just the two of you guys?
yeah, and we get other firefighters or other guys to help us
Help out with jobs and stuff?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, you guys are putting in good work. It is it's a true 5-star for sure.
Yeah, you
So-
you elevated this patio definitely to a 5-star level. We really appreciate it. Well, tell us the question everybody wants to know: are you a homer or a realist?
I'm a realist, but a closet homer.
Love it.
I can appreciate that. I like that.
It takes
Yeah.
a lot to come out, but
Yeah.
once you do, it's great.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been going to and watching OU games? You mentioned the Colorado game was your first game back in '98, and ever since then, had you watched before as a young child, or you're pretty young at 8 years old, I guess. A lot of kids don't start much before that.
Yeah, that was probably at the peak of starting to play football.
Okay.
And then, family like an OU, and just kind of developing the love for OU. And I remember being really involved in, like, watching the '99 season, Stoops' first year, and just, I guess, been a fan ever since.
So, what is your favorite OU football memory or memories? It's kind of hard to identify the single one.
Well, I guess my favorite one, I was working an OU football game prior to becoming a firefighter, and I had walked to the north end zone area. We were just above there, and it was the one where Baker Mayfield is scrambling around for his life and fights Mark Andrews for the go-ahead touchdown there. And I think he catches it in the end zone, if I remember right. That was probably one of my favorite plays, watching that live, and then seeing it on the replays still today.
So, who is your favorite all-time player?
Dan Cody. I played defensive end.
It's nice.
I played defensive end, and at that time, and being in high school, or not high school, but just playing school ball, Dan Cody was just. I mean, I wish we had a guy like Dan Cody. I mean, the guy was quick off the ball.
He was just like an animal.
Yeah, he was a guy who's going to get you a sack every game.
His motor was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, he almost passed out on the sideline at Kansas State.
Yeah.
You remember that game? We were at Kansas State.
Yeah.
And he's on the sideline, like, freaking out, all excited, and he started getting dizzy and had to sit down.
Yeah.
Because he was so amped up.
Well, I remember
He was
maybe the prototypical was at the Texas game where he started, and this was, I think it was actually Mike Stoops who was lining him up this way and having such success that he just stood him up between down linemen, and they didn't know what to do with it. And he would, and like you say, as far as getting a sack for him, or at least being a disruptor, he just completely disrupted and was crazy that whole game, which is what you want out of a guy like that. And he's a great story because he's not your typical high-profile, all-American, goes on to have the pro career and everything. He's just a guy who rolled his sleeves up and did a job.
Yeah. He was a dude that you could count on to get in there and play football. And, I mean, just be hard-nosed and ruthless. And
He had some injuries in the back half of his career, or was he?
I can't remember
Pretty much
anything specific. I know that, or I think that when you look at building a championship type of team, obviously you've got to have 5-star, elite, crazy talent, but you've also got to have those role players like that who are really going to set you apart. And that's something that we've lacked in given seasons when we haven't been there, especially on defense.
Especially in the front of the defense.
We needed a guy who could be someone who shows up and disrupts that they're not going to account for because he's not the guy that is getting all the press.
yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. If you had the magic power, what game outcome would you most want to change if you could?
2003 national championship.
against
LSU.
LSU. Okay.
I was at that game.
I was at that
It was
game as
miserable
well.
afterwards.
Many of us feel the same way. Many of us that have the same answer to that. So now in the SEC, everything's obviously changed. Let me ask you this: will you miss Bedlam?
I will, but it wasn't as intriguing to me. I mean, I enjoyed the game, but it wasn't as intriguing to me as like the Texas rival game.
Right.
Nothing against OSU fans. We owned OSU. I mean, I know they had got us a couple of years or a few years, but we owned it.
Literally.
And it didn't feel like, I mean, it didn't feel like every other year, who could it be? Who could it be?
Right.
And I get it. They get the last laugh. We'll see what happens in the future.
Them and the refs, but yeah.
Yeah.
So at the Firehouse, I imagine you've got a mixture of, like everybody here that
Oh, yeah.
works with a mixture of OU, OSU fans.
Oh, yeah.
How's that going to change?
How do you rely on the ones that
How is that going to change? Do you think it's going to make for an atmosphere that's a little bit more, I don't know, congenial, where you're not as bitter at each other? Or will there breed some resentment and some, if you only had to play us this year kind of stuff? What do you think it's going to be like?
Oh, there's already all sorts of trash talk. Like, oh, you messed up, yada, yada. But it was like, we're carrying the Big 12 between us and Texas. Like, we're ready to move on, greener pastures. And, there's going to be all sorts of trash talking going on about the OU and OSU.
Okay, give me a prediction. Will OU win another national title in football by the year 2030?
I think with following recruiting and what Brent's done just in 3 years and the leaps we've made, I think we will.
Yes.
And that's spoken
You are
from a realist.
Well,
Positive homer.
I will use some quotation marks around that.
Yeah.
So we've talked a little bit about it, but tell us a little more of your thoughts on the coaching staff and the overall direction of the program. Sounds like you're pretty positive.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's made some key hires in the positions they needed, especially the special teams. I felt like we struggled there. I'm kind of curious to see who replaces Gavin Freeman. I mean, that was one, watching the games, going to the games last year. It was like, or even watching them on TV, he's like, is he going to drop the ball? And then the kicker situation, we had that transfer come in. Sounds like he may be the front runner for the job, but his statistics, he's like 75% on his kicks. So he's good on extra points, but he's like 75% on his made field goals. So,
Relative to Schmidt's, like 42.
yeah,
That's a position that doesn't matter what conference you're in.
Right.
There's no.
Yeah,
you don't
30
have to-
yards is 30 yards.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about, he had to kick against Sun Belt or Pac-12 or whatever. It doesn't make a difference he's kicking the SEC because the distances are the same, your kick angles are the same.
Well, and that's what's so interesting about that, like with recruiting and stuff too. I think you really have to look strongly from a regional perspective at that position.
Yeah.
Because if you're a good kicker, maybe opposite actually. If you're a good kicker, you can go anywhere you want, right? Like anyone's going to want you.
Oh,
So, I don't know.
I think they had a walk-on kid as well, local kid.
Marshall?
Yeah.
Oh, no, the other kid, the kid from Moore.
Yes. And, not just special teams, but Zach Alley, I think, likes to run the 3-3-5. And so I kind of like the 4-3, or when Brent kind of runs that approach. So I'm kind of curious with Dominic Williams coming in, how the coach is going to use him, being such a big body up front, and then having the guys that come in that they've recruited, like David Stone, Jackson, Dijon Terry.
Yep.
I think, I want to see Brent take a step back in a sense of like, hey, let your coordinators do their job.
Be the CEO.
Yes, game management. And I want to see, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but that first year, when we got the first 3 games, we're out there kicking butt. But when we got to the Texas game, obviously it was a fiasco. We just seemed so whipped and depleted. Next year, we got through Texas. The Kansas game, it was like Stutzman got hurt. It was just like our win got taken away from us, and we seemed like we struggled. As far as the Stoop years, it was like we finished the season solid. We would stay true. But now I'm kind of serious. This third year going to SEC, has Smitty gotten these guys to where their stamina's up. I mean, basically, they got their energy levels to go and complete the season and not start falling short. I understand injuries will happen, but the last podcast you guys did, and I was listening to it, faithful listener.
Appreciate your listenership.
We got depth now.
Yeah.
We got dudes now that, like Boganowski that came in. Like, we got some other guys here that'll just fly around and hit you watching their footage. And I feel like that's what we've been missing for a long time. Just wrap up, tackle, hit you. And so that's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
So what are the benchmarks we should be looking for in regards to all that? Like, how will we know they've gotten to where they've gotten? Is it just win-loss record, or is there something more in-depth that we should be really paying attention to as fans to know that we've achieved that level? Maybe it's just, can we get through a game and it be as clean as possible, where we don't have a sloppy quarter, where it looks like we went to sleep for a while? What are you going to be looking for, especially somewhat in the early games, but definitely when we get to the meat of the schedule?
Penalties was a big thing last year.
Mm-hmm.
That was controlling ourselves, making smart decisions. I think I kind of want to see where we're at statistically through the first, was it Tennessee 4? Yeah,
Correct. Mm-hmm.
The Auburn's 5. So I guess after those 5 games, I want to see where we're at statistically playing 2 SEC teams that are proven teams. Auburn's coach, second year there, they're going to be pretty good. Tennessee lost some guys, but they got some guys too. But I kind of want to see where they're at statistically, and of course their win-loss record. But if we can go in there to Auburn, of all places, and either stay with them if we lose, or get in there and hang with them till the very end, or just go in there and flat out beat them up. Like, I don't. When I look at the schedule, I see Ole Miss, Missouri. Missouri's got some dudes on their team. Ole Miss, they loaded up. They rolled out the money. Texas is Texas. LSU doesn't scare me. I think we can go down to Death Valley. I mean, they lost their quarterback. They were struggling to find defensive linemen in the portal. So Alabama, they lost a bunch of dudes too. I mean,
Plus the
coaching team.
coach.
Yeah. I mean, that's the 2 teams that really scare me. Now, anything could happen. Everyone keeps talking about the SEC.
Uh-huh.
So
Well, that kind of hints at my next question, which is, what is your prediction on the record? And give me sort of your base case of what you expect. Give me your upside and your downside of where you see it out of just the 12-game regular season.
I think it's a good year if we go 9-3.
All right. So 9-3 is sort of your base case. And
Best
sort of
case, worst case.
best case. Okay.
I look at Oklahoma right now as a dark horse.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they got hosed on the schedule, but they've got some good players there. So let's see. It's going to be, also we can tell it's offensive line. What can Arnold do?
Uh-huh.
And I think Arnold's going to be the guy for us.
If they win 11-1, if I came from the future and told you they win 11-1, would you be totally shocked, or you said, okay, I'm surprised, but I see it?
I'd be surprised. Yeah, I could see that, but I could see more 10-2 would be my.
Now, if I told you they were 7-5, would that be, or would that be horrific, or would that be, yeah, that's the SEC?
It would be horrific.
Okay.
Amen, brother.
I like that.
Amen, bro.
And honestly, I think, the over-under at 7.5 wins, I feel like that's a really low number personally. Maybe that's a homer talking, but I like your dark horse position. I think that is really true and apt. I think things have to really kind of wheels fall off the bus for us to lose 5 or more games. Now, barring injuries, barring some really weird unforeseen things, I can definitely see a lot of possibilities if that stuff comes into play. But
I think they've done a better job setting themselves up, though, with getting Casey Thompson.
uh-huh.
Heard a lot of praise about the true freshman Hawkins. But, I don't know how you guys felt, but when Bevel ran out there, it was like, well, who's this guy? Like, what's going on here?
He's a receiver. What's he doing at quarterback?
We felt very strongly.
Oh, Bevel.
Yeah.
Well, against
He will oddly go down even more.
he dates well.
Yeah. And
God, I saw his girlfriend on a flight the other day. I texted you guys about it. 12 out of 10. 12 out of 10. Alex Sirocco, she is incredibly gorgeous.
Oh, I thought you meant her personality and her mind. I don't know.
You didn't let me finish.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah.
Looks wise, yeah, won't get into that. No, I think that's, and you bring up Bevel and rolling him out in the Texas game and Casey Thompson now, just the stark difference there is now. Not only, you had Davis Bevel, General Booty, and Nick Evers in that quarterback room behind Dylan Gabriel. All of whom, Bevel had one good game at Pittsburgh in a bowl game against the team that was depleted.
I still think it's an indictment on Levy.
No, it is. And I think
There's no way that those guys are D1 quarterbacks, and you're like, we just can't even let you throw the ball.
well, and from what we hear after that game is there was no question the week leading into that game that it was going to be anyone except Bevel.
but like
So
going back to like Farouk, like personally, you got too many guys in the running back room. Farouk doesn't need to be in the backfield taking handoffs. Like, he's a guy that if you get him out in space, one-on-one, throwing the ball, he can do things.
you're too strongly speaking our language.
Well, the ball, yeah. Oh,
You're right on par with it.
Yeah.
Everything we agree with.
but he's got a. We'll see.
But
that's the thing,
One play you're in particular you're talking about, it was a jet sweep into the line, right? It wasn't even getting a wide receiver on the edge.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So now you've got a guy that's not used to that size of defenders trying to take the ball away.
With an offensive line that had not really proven themselves to be the type of guys who can open up a hole.
Just knowing what looking to read the tackles and running between tackles looks like, right?
Right.
But and that's the thing we talked about all last year, and I think I said this word a lot last year. But Josh, to your point, like, I hope part of Luttrell is getting away from this gimmicky BS that we've dealt with.
Yes.
Like, the thing that we said last year so many times is we're Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We don't need to run gimmicks. Run a play style and dominate.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we've always done. I don't need to run gimmicky plays with random players in the backfield, whether it be Gavin Freeman running from the backfield or Jaleel Farouk running from the backfield. We had a running back room that was 4 deep last year.
Yeah.
And given some unproven talent there, but regardless, like, you have running backs outside of Gavin Sawchuk that can go and carry the ball. And I think it's another indictment on Levy that we didn't pick an RB1 until game 7 or 8 last year.
Yeah.
Tawee Walker had a pretty valid reason to leave because of what he produced and didn't get credit for. So, I don't know. I'm ready to run something that is it's an identity as opposed to just a random offshoot game plan that we have by team.
And we looked great last year when Anthony was healthy before he got hurt in the Texas game. Him going deep, it seemed like it opened it up. But when he got hurt, it's like,
Let's shut that down.
whoa. And even the Kansas game, I guess, remember Levy was like,
Well, Farouk wasn't ready to be a number one, and Anderson was still talented but young. So, yeah, when Anthony went down as your true number one, Farouk wasn't ready for that role. He didn't demand the attention that an Anthony did.
I'm high on Gibson.
Yeah, he's kind of like, to use your words, your phrase, he's kind of the dark horse of that room, I think.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy that we've given a lot of grief to for dropping balls when they should have been caught. But
he has the capability, he has the athleticism, he definitely has the height, which you love in a receiver like that.
And he's going to get his shot.
These first 2-3 games he's absolutely going to get his shot.
We're not talking enough about Brendan Thompson because when he's had the couple times he's been healthy, he's gone deep and been wide open.
I haven't seen anything on him in camps or anything. I haven't seen a single word on him.
I haven't heard anything.
No, he's a secret weapon there.
I haven't seen him in any injury.
No one talks about Petaway either.
Yeah, which I think he's going to be a freak.
If they're never going to give him a shot, there's no reason to talk about him.
And one thing about the coaching staff going back, one thing I really kind of admire about Brent, maybe it's just Oklahoma football getting better, the high school level. they're recruiting a lot of kids out of Oklahoma, and I really enjoy that because it seemed like for years we would lose guys all over, and it's like, man, why can't we get that guy? We go get a guy out of Texas, but now that we're getting these guys in our backyard and going to the SEC, because that was always a downplay, like, well, we're not in the SEC, so they're not going to come here, this 5-star kid or whoever. That's fine. I mean, now we're here, and now we got these 4-star athletes in Oklahoma. Get them.
Yeah.
Like, they're doing a good job of that.
Devour them, yeah.
Yeah. And I really like that. I like what he's doing.
I mean, it does mean more to those kids.
Yeah.
It really does.
It does, yeah.
It means more to everyone.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen guys, even like offensive linemen, like a Wes Sims, or I mean, we've had local guys. Frank Romero was from Moore and started on offensive line for a long time. When you get those guys in that grew up OU fans and know what the culture is, because if you're a Texas kid, obviously Texas is big, but A&M's big, and then TCU's come on. Baylor had their run, but when you get a kid from Oklahoma, outside of some Tulsa area kids that want to go to OSU, the rest of the state's yours for the picking. And Texas, California, Florida, Ohio, and then you got the big boys down in Bama, Mississippi area. But outside of that, you're plucking a kid from Maryland, or you're plucking a kid from Kansas or whatever. But being able to actually get elite athletes from your state can make a big difference just in mindset, because those kids know what it means to be a Sooner.
Right.
Well,
That's
what's funny
a
is
welcome change.
Yes.
the kids that grow up OSU fans, the minute that OU offer rolls in, that fandom's in question.
They change
right?
right
I mean,
like Yep.
and that's just reality. It's not even a knock against Oklahoma State. It's just how it is. I mean, it's OU. So, Josh, I completely agree. I think you have to capitalize on the in-state talent that we are finally producing, and not only recognize it, but deliver on it and get those kids on campus and have them be a part of what you're trying to do. Because you look at one of the most extreme instances where you have a guy like Josh Jacobs who's in your backyard, right? And it comes full circle, and he ends up literally running you over in a bowl game, in a playoff game. So I don't know. I'm fully aligned to that. I think that's a good point.
Several. Meacham.
Yeah. I mean, it goes way back.
Proctor.
Josh Proctor was a safety we needed so bad.
Who's the kid
Who's
the kid that went to Michigan?
That was the OSU kid's brother.
Yeah.
It was Randall's, but not Randall.
No.
Justice Hill's brother.
Yeah.
Dax.
Yep,
Yeah.
Daxo.
And you had the pipeline to Tennessee for the longest time. They kept sucking players away. So you're obviously a fan. You're a pretty in-deep fan, I would say. So we all have friends and colleagues that we interact with that are various levels of fandom. Would you say, and I'm kind of interested in everybody's opinion on this, would you say that you're more positive, less positive, equally positive with how the team is going to be compared to other fans that you interact with?
I am, yeah. I would say so.
You're more positive?
Yeah. Just from watching this from day one with Brent coming in and seeing the growth in the program, reading the stories, listening to y'all's podcast. I mean, I got a 45-minute drive to work, so I can hammer out some podcasts sometimes, So, but yeah, I'm very optimistic, and I think we're gonna be okay.
I am totally in alignment with you, and I think that I'm on the positive side of the group of people that I interact with. I've got a big range. I actually was interacting with one that surprised me. He was extremely pessimistic, and I took a little comfort in the fact that the things he was saying, he was completely, obviously a bit disconnected, not really knowing the depth that we've got on defense in particular, and maybe I'm just too in the weeds that I know what we've got, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think we're going to be dynamite, at least on talent. And it seems like there's a lot of people that are OU fans that are not completely aware of what we've got to work with. And that gives me comfort, too, when I look nationally at the disrespect or lack of extreme Oklahoma-level respect that we're getting right now, that maybe everybody's like that, and they just don't realize what we've put together. I
think that's absolutely the case. And for me, I thought I was more positive than the group that I usually interact with. I'm, ironically enough, am in a had a text chain just pop up on my phone the last 10, 15 minutes of my friends actually being overly optimistic and saying like, hey, I'm actually like, most of them saying like, yeah, I'm thinking like 9-3 is extremely doable, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe I'm on par with most of the group. I think from an OU fan perspective, I think the stuff you see on social media and everything else is a little overblown with how optimistic. I think a lot of the optimism that is out there is relatively not guided in the right way. I'm not saying that the people's predictions are wrong, but I'm saying that the way they're predicting things is probably not the best source of truth. Whereas I think the pessimism that you see from a national perspective is right on par with what you said, Steve. I think a lot of people just don't have a clue what OU is. And I think OU was easy to overlook last year in the Big 12, right? Big 12's the third best conference last year in the league, arguably third or fourth if you measure it up
We
against
went
the ACC.
7-5 in the regular season the year before.
Yeah, and
No, I
and
think
you
we're
have
fourth behind. I mean, last year it's Pac-12, not in this order, but Pac-12, SEC, Big Ten.
Yeah, so fair enough. So fourth, pushing for fifth with the ACC, and you've got everyone's eyes on Texas, where it's easy to be, quote unquote, overlooked.
Whom people to forget that we beat.
Exactly.
When you watch these national people,
Literally forget.
it's like
forget
they don't know that
beat
we
them.
won the game.
Well,
I don't
Right.
think they do know.
EA Sports even thought we lost that
Yeah,
game
that's
when
true.
they put the new game out. They said
I love it.
said that we're coming off a one game loss to them last year.
Well, and you look at, I think I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to the Unofficial 40, and they had one of their network, one of the On3 network guys on their podcast, who they can't publish the podcast because the guy had no idea who Jackson Arnold was.
Oh my God.
So,
Which is really saying something because he was
it's saying a lot.
a top recruit.
Yeah.
He
He
only
thinks
won the
Dylan
Elite
Gabriel
11.
left
Right.
to go to a better situation in Oregon when really we asked Dylan Gabriel to not come back.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think it gets back to the whole narrative of everyone thinks that this move to the SEC, it's Texas coming to the SEC and then Oklahoma's tagging along.
Right.
And those people have no idea of the history of the rivalry.
Right.
And
They haven't
how
watched
how
college
it's
football
gone
in
in
the
the
last
last
15 years.
20
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the last since 2000. So there's a lack of knowledge there, and it just speaks to national media as a whole of how uninformed they are and how they are so impulsive to react. But I'm loving it. Like I love the
Yeah.
Josh
I'm
used
here
it as
for
an
it.
extremely great term. Like I love the dark horse mentality.
Yeah.
Like give it to me all day. We're gonna come in preseason probably like number 12, 13. Like more than likely.
That'll be a fun thing to watch for in the season is when, assuming we have success, when do we stop being a dark horse and when do we start being a known contender that people are really respecting? And
If you go out and you beat
Tennessee
Tennessee,
and
Auburn, and Texas,
I think just Tennessee and Auburn alone.
get you.
I
They'll leave it
think
murky.
nationally,
It gets you in the
I think
top
you're
10,
right.
but I think if you go out and you beat Tennessee, Auburn, Texas, I think you're automatically
Oh
like,
yeah.
Oh, I think
you're saying, hey, like this is
I
top
bet-
five at that
Oh
That's
yeah,
a
we'll
top
be
five
top
team.
5.
Yeah.
We'll be top. We might be top 7 if going into Texas
Yeah.
if we're undefeated.
I feel like it's almost a national given that the Auburn game's a loss. You just can't stroll into Auburn apparently and come out with a victory. I don't know. New Mexico State did, but we have no chance.
I heard Dean Blevins today on the radio,
I'm sorry.
which is usually a bad thing, but today he brought in a stat and he was researching and took all 16 SEC teams and went back to 2010 to current and looked at their winning percentage. And Bama was above and beyond number 1. They were like 89%.
Yeah.
Georgia was 2 at, I want to say 79 or something like that, 78. And then OU was 3rd with around, it was like 7.7 or something like that. It was just barely behind Georgia. And then they were trying to name who the 4th team would be. And then they were guessing. And it turned out Texas was the 8th. And their winning percentage was 58%.
Sure. Yeah.
Since 2010 to current. And you've got these national pundits acting like Texas has won 80% of their games.
Right.
And in the last 14 years or whatever this time, it was 2010 to
Who
current.
was the 4th? LSU?
I think
Florida?
it was LSU.
Florida be up there too.
And then it was just
2010 though.
From 2010, I don't think
2010,
Florida
yeah,
would be.
Florida.
True.
But it was just surprising that 58%. You know, as a fan base, how pissed we would be
Absolutely.
to only have won 58%
Well,
of
they're
our
only
games
like
from,
in the.
from the last 14
They're
years.
not even the top third of the Big 12.
If you think I'm a realist now, I'd be a hardcore pessimist.
Oh
at
my
that point.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
suicide watch.
that's insane.
Yeah.
58%, and these guys act like they're the best thing in college football outside of Bama and Georgia.
But you go look at something
and the
like,
national pundits act like that too. It's ridiculous.
go look at like Sark's record in his first 2 seasons at Texas versus Tom Herman's. Almost identical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't until he just pulled away just recently.
Right.
His first 2 seasons compared with Brent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you ask somebody, you said, you know, who's the top 2 teams in the Big 12, Big 10, SEC? Everyone would probably say Texas, OU, Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll give Georgia their props. We're going, you know. In Alabama, they lost their coach. They lost 39 players to transfer portal. Like,
Graduation in NFL.
right. Like, what are we talking?
Well, everyone's acting
literally
like
talking.
everyone's acting like Milroe's just going to be this
He's a good player.
this Christ figure who's going.
I mean, outside of literally a miracle pass, they lose to Auburn.
yeah.
Right.
That was the last. Was that the last play of the game?
Yeah.
Well, no,
There was
he's
4
like-
seconds. There was 4 seconds
He just
left.
throws the ball up in the air and happens.
like
the
fourth
guy
and-
snags it.
And don't discount
More
it.
than like
they did not
more than
look-
21
they did
or
not-
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
they
like
did not
21.
look good against. They did not look good against Michigan.
And
I know that
understand
game went in overtime.
that's
That
a-
was not. They were
Right.
not good.
And that's a rivalry game, Alabama Auburn. But
Yeah.
for a team as awesome as Auburn is, I mean, Alabama's been for at least the last.
And as bad as
decade.
how
Auburn
not good
is.
as Auburn's been.
and as bad as Auburn's been.
Including losing to New Mexico State the week before.
Yeah, you lose to New Mexico State before, and then you almost beat Auburn. It's
Almost beat
shocking.
Alabama. Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah,
the,
I mean,
the other thing I want to see, though, is what's the other SEC team that bought players?
Ole Miss.
Texas.
Well, who else?
Missouri.
Texas A&M.
Oh, okay.
Okay. How'd that work for them?
How well?
for the last 5 years, it hadn't done anything for them.
Let's see how it works for Ole Miss.
Actually, I think Texas A&M was either 4 or 5 on that.
I think I heard
on a winning
Ole Miss,
percentage.
they're projected starting 22 or 22 of their 24 starters projected are transfers.
I believe it. I mean,
only
they
22
were
songs.
they
That
were
takes
crazy.
a lot of coaching and
Or 20 of
chemistry to
22.
come together.
I don't know if they're counting 24 as punter kicker.
Oh yeah,
To make that work, you've got to have a lot of really good coaching and a lot of chemistry to boot. That's very difficult.
Well, and I mean, I honestly think Texas A&M made a good move. Like I think
Well, Jimbo.
yeah. Jimbo wasn't in.
I think Texas A&M actually, like, with some structure and some accountability, I think I mean, talent-wise, they have everything they need, right? It's just a matter of utilizing it. I think Elko I think he's a guy to do it. I don't think he's the best hire. I think he's a good hire, though. I think he's going to be
In 1 year.
a more developmental guy than what Jimbo was. I think Jimbo literally went into that job saying, "I got the dollars behind me. I'll have the players, and they're going to make plays." And it didn't work out that way. I think they actually have a coach now who's vested in making it work. So I don't think they're going to be as much of a. I don't know what they were projected at this year in terms of over under for win loss, but I mean they're not going to be some pushover. I mean they're going to have a say in the standings of the conference for sure.
Where's the A&M and Texas game at?
I think it's that. I think
College
it's that
Station.
A&M. So I can't wait for that. That's gonna be. We're gonna have.
Oh,
And you
boy.
talk
We're gonna
about
have
bad
A&M,
blood.
we're gonna have
That's some bad
A&M
blood.
probably that Friday before LSU, if they go back to their original
Thanksgiving,
because they would do Fridays, Thanksgiving weekend on Friday. I don't know if they're gonna go back to that schedule
So you're saying Texas will have A&M? What are you
on
saying?
that Friday, like
On
the
that Friday.
same weekend
Yes.
we have LSU. So I hope
Right.
we have.
Right. What
I
is
hope-
it? Wait, we've looked it up. What is it?
It's in College Station. It's the last game of the year.
So it's
What's
the same day we
what's
play
the
LSU.
That's a Saturday.
What's the date?
They give a time.
The 30th of November.
30th of November.
That'll be an 11 a.m. kickoff. I bet.
So that's the same day we play LSU.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's a 3:30. Oh, they have it split. So I bet they're hedging their bets. So it's either a 3:30 to 4:30 game or a prime time 8 p.m. game Eastern time. So, and I think ours for the LSU is the same exact thing.
I bet we get it, and if it's between
Depends
us
on
and them,
records.
I bet, and I'll make a bet right now. We get it.
I hope we get a night game in Death Valley.
I mean, between those two,
I hope we do.
between those, both those two matchups, between A&M and Texas, being who are you going to bet on versus us and LSU? I mean, I think us and Texas are the clear most likely to have a really good record.
They're actually extremely similar.
But LSU's better than A&M.
They're extremely similar games, though, in terms of like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think OU and Texas are the better teams going into both of those games. But you're going into extremely hostile, ridiculous environments to go and win a last game of the year to put you wherever where you're landing. So
Could be a playoff game.
Oh, yeah.
Basically.
oh, it's gonna be
Yeah,
cool.
both of them.
That's going to be super cool. Well, we're going to wrap it up there. We covered a lot of ground. Thank you, Josh, for coming out.
Yeah, Josh, thanks,
It's been
man.
great having you here. If you guys are in the need for concrete, 5-Star Concrete's your connection. One of the things we're going to be preview of something we're going to be covering soon will be, just like you were talking about, Connor, with the over-under for A&M. We're going to walk through all the SEC teams and make our own predictions on over-unders and where we think they're going to land, as well as some other teams of interest and notoriety, and there's quite a few of them out there. That's coming in the coming weeks. Some strong predictions on what the season will bring, where we now can solidify around those a little bit.
Yeah, one last thing, Josh. What's your final prediction for the season? I know you said 9-3 earlier. Is that what you're thinking? Where you think we're landing at?
I think we're landing there.
I'm hopeful for 10-2.
I'm hoping 10-2, and the next win would be beating Texas.
All right.
Love 9-3 get us in the playoffs.
With our schedule, yeah, I think. I mean, was it?
It's a good point.
Yeah,
It's a very strong schedule. It's a much stronger 9-3 than a lot of other teams 9-3. It's a stronger 9-3 than Texas if they're 9-3.
9-3 gets us there.
I think you're
it
right.
Gets us there.
I think we're on the bubble at the very least. Well, this has been fun, and until next time, Boomer.
Sooner.